It was a crisp autumn afternoon when Mum and Dad first met for a walk in the park. The leaves were turning shades of gold and red, creating a picturesque backdrop for their first outing. Dad, always the thoughtful one, had brought along a rucksack filled with a few surprises. As they strolled along the winding paths, chatting about their favorite books and movies, Dad suddenly stopped and smiled. "I brought something for you," he said, reaching into his rucksack. Mum watched curiously as he pulled out a small packet of Jaffa cakes. Her eyes lit up with delight. "Jaffa cakes! How did you know these are my favorite?" she exclaimed. Dad grinned, a little sheepishly. "I might have done a bit of research," he admitted. They both laughed, the sound blending with the rustling leaves around them. They found a cozy bench under a large oak tree and sat down to share the Jaffa cakes. As they enjoyed the sweet treats, they talked about their dreams and aspirations, feeling a connection growing stronger with each passing moment. That simple walk, with its thoughtful gesture and shared laughter, marked the beginning of a beautiful journey together. And every time they saw Jaffa cakes after that day, they were reminded of that special first walk and the start of their love story.
Seashells and sunshine. Thea woke up to the smell of sea air and the sound of seagulls calling in the distance. Today was a special day. She was spending it with Grandma Margot at the beach. Grandma wore her wide-brimmed straw hat and carried a picnic basket filled with homemade sandwiches, lemonade, and Thea's favorite, strawberry scones. Thea clutched her little bucket and spade, her eyes sparkling with excitement. As they stepped onto the soft, golden sand, Grandma smiled. "First one to the water gets the biggest shell." Thea giggled and ran ahead, her feet kicking up tiny clouds of sand. The waves lapped gently at the shore, and the sun shimmered on the water like 1,000 tiny diamonds. They spent the morning building the grandest sandcastle the beach had ever seen, complete with towers, a moat, and a tiny flag made from a stick and a leaf. Grandma helped shape the turrets, while Thea decorated the walls with shells and pebbles. After lunch, they lay on a blanket, watching the clouds drift by. "Look," said Grandma, pointing up. "That one looks like a dolphin." Thea squinted. "And that one's a cupcake." They laughed until their bellies hurt. Later, they walked along the shoreline, collecting seashells and dipping their toes in the cool water. Grandma told stories of when she was a little girl, visiting the same beach with her own grandmother. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Thea leaned against Grandma's shoulder. "Can we come back next summer?" she asked. Grandma kissed the top of her head. "Of course, my love. The beach will always be here, and so will I." And as the waves whispered secrets to the shore, Thea knew this was a day she'd remember forever.
Auntie Holly and Uncle Ash loved their Sunday morning walks with Benji, their lively show cocker spaniel. The woods near their home were Benji's favorite playground, a place where he could run free and chase sticks to his heart's content. One crisp autumn morning, the trio set off for their usual adventure. The leaves crunched under their feet, and the air was filled with the earthy scent of fallen leaves and pine. Benji, with his glossy coat and wagging tail, bounded ahead, his nose twitching with excitement. "Look at him go," Auntie Holly said, laughing as Benji darted from tree to tree, sniffing out every interesting scent. She adjusted her scarf, the chill in the air making her cheeks rosy. Uncle Ash smiled, his eyes following Benji's every move. "He's in his element," he said, picking up the sturdy stick from the ground. "Ready, Benji?" he called out, waving the stick in the air. Benji's ears perked up, and he turned to face Uncle Ash, his eyes bright with anticipation. With a swift motion, Uncle Ash threw the stick as far as he could. Benji took off like a shot, his paws kicking up leaves as he raced after it. "Good throw!" Auntie Holly cheered, watching as Benji disappeared into the underbrush. They could hear him rustling around, and soon enough, he emerged triumphantly with the stick clutched in his mouth. "Good boy, Benji," Uncle Ash praised. Kneeling down to ruffle Benji's ears, Benji dropped the stick at Uncle Ash's feet, his tail wagging furiously. "Ready for another one?" Uncle Ash asked, picking up the stick again. This time, Auntie Holly took a turn. She threw the stick high into the air, and Benji leaped up to catch it, his agility and grace on full display. "He's such a show-off," she said with a grin, watching as Benji pranced back to them, the stick held proudly in his mouth. They continued their walk, taking in the beauty of the woods. The trees were a riot of colors, reds, oranges, and yellows, and the sunlight filtered through the branches, casting dappled shadows on the ground. Benji ran ahead, occasionally stopping to chase a squirrel or investigate a particularly interesting patch of ground. As they walked, Auntie Holly and Uncle Ash talked about everything and nothing, enjoying the peacefulness of the woods and the simple pleasure of each other's company. Benji's joyful antics provided a constant source of amusement, and they couldn't help but laugh at his boundless energy. Eventually, they reached a small clearing with a fallen log, the perfect spot to rest. Auntie Holly sat down, and Benji immediately jumped up beside her, resting his head on her lap. "Tired already?" she teased, scratching behind his ears. Uncle Ash sat down next to them, stretching out his legs. "I think we've worn him out," he said, smiling as Benji's eyes began to droop. They sat there for a while, enjoying the tranquility of the woods and the warmth of the sun. Benji dozed off, his breathing slow and steady. Auntie Holly and Uncle Ash exchanged a look, their hearts full of love for their furry companion and each other. As they made their way back home, Benji trotted along happily beside them, his energy renewed. The woods had worked their magic once again, leaving them all feeling refreshed and content. It was a perfect morning, filled with laughter, love, and the simple joy of being together.
Starlight whispers. Every evening, just as the sun dipped below the rooftops of their quiet village, Grandad Richard would settle into his old wooden chair in the garden. Thea, his curious and wide-eyed granddaughter, would curl up beside him, wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of lavender and old books. They didn't need much, just the stars. "Why do you always look up there, Grandad?" Thea asked one night, her voice barely louder than the rustling leaves. Grandad smiled, his eyes twinkling like the constellations above. "Because, my little star, the sky holds more than just light. It holds memories." Thea tilted her head. "Memories?" He nodded. "When someone we love leaves this world, they don't really go far. They become part of the stars. If you ever feel lost or miss someone special, just look up. They'll be there, watching over you, keeping you safe." From that night on, Thea never looked at the sky the same way. Years passed. Thea grew older, and Grandad's chair sat empty more often, until one evening, the garden was quiet, too quiet. Grandad had gone, leaving behind his stories, his warmth, and the stars. That night, Thea sat alone in the garden, wrapped in the same old blanket. She looked up, tears glistening in her eyes. And then she saw it, a single bright star, twinkling more brightly than the rest. She smiled through her tears. "Hello, Grandad." From that moment on, whenever life felt heavy or the world too loud, Thea would find her way back to the garden. She'd sit in Grandad's chair, look up, and feel the quiet comfort of a love that never truly left. Because some stars don't just shine, They watch over us.